The tricky thing is that when you've spent most of your life following what you were told that you should do or what you think you're supposed to do, it can be really hard to fully trust that you're making the right choices when your intuition is telling you to go one way while the rest of the world and the conditioning that is so ingrained in your psyche is telling you that you're supposed to go another way. In this video, we're going to explore how to fiercely trust yourself as you pursue your spiritual path so that you feel empowered and confident to create a life that really fills you up. But first, let's explore where this breakdown of self-trust comes from. Many of us have grown up with a very strong conditioning from our culture, from our families, around the roadmap to success. We learn this roadmap from such a young age that we're supposed to get really good grades in school, get into a good university, get more good grades as we study towards a career path that leads to stability and a high-paying income. And then we leave university and fingers crossed we land that stable, steady corporate career. We work really hard and we rise up the corporate ladder as we find a partner and we get married, we get kids, we buy a house, and we work in this corporate career until we retire. And then we have freedom. If you haven't heard my story before, I am someone who pretty much to the T followed this roadmap to success. Getting the good grades, getting into good universities, getting multiple degrees, including 2 law degrees, and finally landing that coveted career at a high-profile New York City law firm. Before eventually leaving it all behind as I really went into my spiritual awakening and realized that the path that I was on was not fulfilling for me. It didn't lead to a meaningful life. And I just really felt that this wasn't the path that I really wanted to continue down for the rest of my life. So long story short, that catapulted me into my spiritual awakening where I ended up leaving that career. And it's really interesting because when I think back on my journey, and I think back to myself when I was younger, when I was really following this roadmap to success, I had a lot of confidence and self-trust. I remember having this deep-rooted trust that I would one day become a lawyer, which was a long-time dream of mine. Even after I was rejected after my first round of applications, even though there were many obstacles along my path, I really just trusted and I knew the steps that I needed to take to get to that ultimate goal of becoming a lawyer and landing the job that I wanted. And that's the thing, when we're following the traditional path, the roadmap to success that, we've really been conditioned from such a young age to follow and pursue, that path is very clear. It's very easy to know what you need to do to get to where you want to go. And it's just, in my case, it was just a matter of a lot of hard work and patience and staying committed to that vision until it eventually happened. But this sense of self-trust and confidence, it really began to fade and to shift as I went deeper into my spiritual awakening. And this is a trend that I have noticed so much with the people that I work with the friends that I have that are also very devoted to their spiritual path. And it was just this noticing that as I left the conventional career path that was neatly laid out for me, and as I really began to go deeper into my spiritual path, which is by nature, the spiritual awakening, you probably know, it really shatters your illusion of reality and it wakes you up to your role as the creator of your reality. And so when you go into your spiritual awakening through a lot of deep healing work, a lot of deep inner excavation, cycles of death and rebirth that you naturally go through as you let go of these forms of identity that you've latched onto, The spiritual awakening process invites you to become the conscious creator of your reality by following the guidance of your intuition rather than being a follower of other people, a follower of society, a follower of what your friends and family are telling you that you're supposed to do. The tricky thing is that when you've spent most of your life following what you were told that you should do or what you think you're supposed to do, it can be really hard to fully trust that you're making the right choices when your intuition is telling you to go one way while the rest of the world and the conditioning that is so ingrained in your psyche is telling you that you're supposed to go another way. And this is where the breakdown of self-trust really begins to crumble for a lot of people as they go through their spiritual awakening, because you're left at this really difficult point where you feel something so deeply in your heart, in your soul, in your body. Everything inside of you is telling you this is the way to go. This is your next right step, aligned step. But oftentimes that step is totally not congruent, not aligned with the step that the majority is taking, the step that is the norm in our culture. And this is where that breakdown of self-trust can really happen. And for those of us that are pulled towards the spiritual path, towards becoming the conscious creators of our lives, maybe that looks like building a heart-centered business or community, or pursuing your passions and being of service to others in a way that really feels aligned for you. The harsh reality is this: there is no roadmap to follow. The only way to build a heart-centered life is by following your own heart. And again, this is so much harder than it sounds. Because if you're someone like me who has spent most of their life following a roadmap to success that was already laid out for them, it can feel really scary and confusing to even know what your heart really wants, and more so to pursue that in the face of the objection or the confusion or the isolation that you might feel from those around you or from society at large. And I've certainly had and experienced this internal battle of wanting to trust myself, but also being so swayed by the opinions of others. I first experienced my big taste of this when I was first deciding to leave my legal career. And I had some family members who really strongly did not agree with my decision. I had such strong faith and such a strong conviction and inner knowing that this was what I needed to do. But I had spent my whole life listening and taking advice from this very important person in my life, and knowing how much that they just didn't agree with the path I wanted to go down was really, really hard for me. But I ultimately decided that this is my life. I have to do what feels right to me. I can't live my life and spend the rest of my years just doing something because other people are telling me that's what I'm supposed to do. So I ended up taking that leap of faith, leaving that career. And that was really one of the biggest initial initiations for me on my spiritual path, where I was like, wow, I'm really on this on my own now. And it really was a path, a decision that brought me deeper back in touch with myself, with my truth, with my heart, with what I really want to create out of my life. So that's what I want to share with you now. It's how do we build this muscle of self-trust so that we can follow our own inner guidance and rhythm without constantly doubting ourselves. So the first is taking an advice detox. Oh, this is such a powerful practice. Taking a break from asking for advice from anyone else. Not asking your friends, not asking your family, not even really asking your mentors for advice, but really tuning in and trusting and listening in order to trust what you feel the best advice is for you. When you take this advice detox and really stop asking other people for advice, it forces you to really tune in and to trust yourself on a deeper level. And this is a really awesome way to build that relationship with your own intuition and also to fully take accountability for your own life. Because I don't know if you've ever experienced this before, but if you're constantly taking advice from other people, it's also kind of a way to relinquish some of that accountability, because you can just be like, well, I'm doing this thing because so-and-so told me to do it, right? But if you're not taking advice from anyone else, you're really pulling in the reins of your own self-responsibility. And it's a radical way to increase your level of self-awareness and self-trust as you learn to listen to what your intuition, what your body is telling you, and to follow through on that and see how it feels, see what that results in, see where that takes you for a period of time. So the advice detox is really an incredible way to strengthen that self-trust muscle. My second tip is, instead of focusing on the outcome, double down on figuring out your creative process. This is especially true if you are a creator or an entrepreneur or someone who is pursuing a more creative path, a path where you are actively being the conscious creator of your life, whether that manifests into a business or it's just the way that you show up in your life. If you can focus on figuring out your process, this is going to be of such deep value in your own journey. We are so conditioned again to focus on the outcome of our efforts, the results that we get from the effort that we put in. So we might be focusing on our metrics, on the number of views our videos get, or the number of likes our posts get, or how much money you're making in your business, or the external validation that you get from other people. But instead of focusing on these external metrics, because again, if we are creating from a place of receiving that external validation, it's not coming from that authentic place anymore, because in the back of your mind, you're trying to create something that's going to appease an outcome from other people. But that's not authentic. That's not always the most authentically aligned expression of you, of yourself, of your gifts, of your passions, of your interests. So instead, focus on figuring out your creative process, contemplating, what do I actually love to do? What puts me in a state of flow where time just passes and I feel so completely absorbed in what it is that I'm creating or doing? What makes me fulfilled while I'm in the work, while I'm doing the work? These are amazing questions to really contemplate and play with and experiment with in your life. And you know, for me, it took a lot of experimentation to really get to the root of these questions, a lot of trial and error. And I learned that I have to be okay with failure, because in order to really figure out what it is that you really love to do, in order to figure out what it is that really puts you in a state of flow, some things are going to work and some things aren't. And you have to be okay with that. You have to be okay with going through the process to really see how things feel on the inside as you are in the process of creation. So giving yourself that space and that time to really experiment, to get to know yourself and understand yourself on a deeper level is so imperative, because once you can answer these questions, you can feel a deeper sense of trust, because you know that you're doing something that actually feels aligned for you. Your creative process, all of our creative processes, is going to look very different for each of us. We all are creators in different ways. So there are periods in your process where you will feel very inspired, where you will feel very creative, where you will feel very in flow. And there are other times in your creative process where you will feel unmotivated or unclear or stuck or uncertain in how to move forward. And trusting your process, learning how to trust your process, means that you fiercely trust the ebbs and flows of your own creative process. It means that you trust yourself even if you don't feel inspired to post or create or show up in a certain way. It means that you trust yourself even if you don't see anyone else doing what you want to do. You trust yourself even if no one else understands your choices or your ideas. And you trust that you are enough exactly as you are. Because a lot of the time, our misalignment comes from this feeling that we're not enough. We feel like we're not posting enough. We need to show up more. We need to do more. We need to create more. We try to copy the people that we see are successful. We ultimately bypass what our body is telling us we need in this moment. So trusting your creative process is really, it's a deep process of really getting to know yourself, getting to know what you love, getting to know what fulfillment feels like for you, and also really getting to understand your own creative ebbs and flows. The periods where you are deep in the root, deep in the mud, and the periods where you are blossoming and blooming, and knowing that each of these phases are phases, they're seasons, they don't last forever. So can you trust that whichever season you're in, whether you're in the winter or you're in the summer, is beautiful, and it's just a part of your process that you get to trust and honor. And this is something that, in my experience, develops with time. My third tip for fiercely learning how to trust yourself is to prioritize building resilience in your nervous system. When your nervous system is feeling overwhelmed or you're in a state of fight, flight, or freeze, your capacity to relax and to trust yourself and your process is severely diminished. Your capacity to hold the life that you desire is dependent on the ability of your nervous system to relax and be open. Practices like meditation, yoga, yin practices, restorative practices, resting, long walks, appreciating beauty, being in the creative process, and just overall softening your approach to life are all crucial to this process of opening up, of being able to receive and to hold your visions. And this is, again, all links back to the capacity and the resilience of your nervous system. And this might sound a lot easier than it actually is, because we live in a society that has conditioned us to feel that if we're not doing or producing or achieving, then we're failing. So it can sound really easy to be like, oh, okay, I just need to rest more, or I need to take more breaks, or I need to just, slow down. But when it actually comes to the practice of resting, of slowing down, of taking more breaks, of appreciating the beauty in the mundane moments, it's a lot harder than it seems, because at least in my experience and many people that I work with and just that I'm friends with, it's this constant feeling that if I'm slowing down, then I'm falling behind. If I'm slowing down, then I'm not doing enough. If I'm slowing down, then I'm not going to be as successful. And again, we've been so conditioned from our society to believe that we have to keep moving. So rest is really rebellion. And as you practice moving more gently through your life, learning how to rest, to replenish, to restore your nervous system, you'll naturally notice that your capacity to be open and to trust your own unique process begins to strengthen as well. So prioritizing your nervous system, so key. And my last piece of advice is surrounding yourself with like-minded community. It is just so healing and helpful as you pursue your spiritual path to surround yourself with like-minded people, people who are also going against the grain of what society has told us we're supposed to do, people who are also breaking their own barriers, people who are also consciously creating their own path. It is so helpful because it reminds you that you are not alone, because this path can really feel very isolating and confusing at times because it is so counterculture. So whether it's finding digital spaces like this where we talk about topics that are against the norm, or maybe finding community in person where you are meeting people that are also pursuing things similar to you, it is really, really helpful. Just knowing that you are surrounding yourself with people, that there are people in your life that understand the path that you are moving down and that can support you in really trusting yourself, especially in those moments where the fear gets really loud or the opinions and advice from other people gets really loud. Just having these strong, stable forces of community, of people, sisterhood, friendships, mentors in your life that can really support you in coming back to what feels true and aligned for you is so healing. It's so beautiful. And it really reminds me of that quote from Ram Dass that we are all walking each other home. So finding people that really support you on this journey is a game changer. I really hope that you found this video helpful. And if you did, it would mean so much if you could like and subscribe to this channel. We talk a lot about spiritual awakening, becoming the conscious creator of your own life, and creating a life that really makes you feel alive. So if that's your jam, then make sure that you subscribe so that you'll be notified for future videos. And leave me a comment. Let me know what resonated. Let me know how your relationship has been with self-trust as you've gone deeper into your spiritual path. Thank you so, so much for being here. I'm sending you so much love, and I will see you again in my next video. Bye.